The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 580.
Go team, go!
Welcome to the Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, Geoff dreams about winning the lottery. We answer questions about VR, hiring someone to paint your miniatures, and what to do when you're the only one to show up for an organized play tournament. Then we team up for our top 10 team games. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Howard Cosell of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
I can't do his voice. I would like to. I can do like the Saturday Night Live impression things where they made fun of his voice.
Sure. Well,
one of the greatest broadcasters of all time. Wasn't there if I recall correctly, there was a movie where someone learned to speak English from listening to Howard Cosell?
Really? Huh.
I want to say it was a John Cusack movie.
No, I don't know that one.
Where he had a skiing... Well, anyway, maybe that one right. Hey, folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
Hi there, I'm Eric Summerer.
It's been a day, huh? Eric is having electronic and voice troubles.
Oh.
That's like the double whammy.
Golly, yeah, it's been a struggle this week.
Well, I'll try to cover the talking for him then.
Came home with a lovely head cold from Essen, which is a blast.
Yeah, but Essen was like almost... 10 days ago now, huh?
I know. These things don't go away.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, except for, hey, let's talk about some positive stuff.
Let's do that.
Right now, if you want to, there's a couple things you should do, possibly stopping this podcast to do both of them. One is, if you haven't signed up for Dice Tower Con, do that. Go to dicetowercon.com. It's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly... the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund auction is currently running. Now, we're calling this the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund Bridge Auction because we'll be running a bigger auction in the springtime. But Jack Vassell is running from November 5th, which has been passed now for a few days, to November 14th, which is only a couple days away. There's some pretty cool stuff there to bid on, and you still have a chance to throw some stuff up yourself.
Neat.
And so that's being our stuff. So we're back from Essen. Last week you heard Mandy and Suzanne talk about Essen. We're not going to really go into too much about Essen because we did that a little bit while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I feel like a bit of nirvana right now when it comes to games. Because I'm like, should I play some hot new games? That's all I got. Although it hasn't been perfect. There was the very first night I brought games, and one of the guys I played games with was like, man, Tom, this is unusual. All the games were good. But then the next night time we got together, he's like, oh, well, never mind. They were all mediocre. They weren't bad. They were just mediocre.
Well, they can't all be amazing, right?
Well, sure, right. This is still mind-boggling to me when people are like, hey, Tom, do you Essen was kind of mediocre this year, wasn't it? And I feel like people are hoping that it's mediocre. And I said more good games came out at Essen than came out in the 90s total.
Yeah.
And that's a true statement. Go look up all the games that came out in the 90s and look at all the games that came out at Essen. Even the games at Essen that we're calling mediocre would have been considered like phenomenal in the 90s. Mm-hmm. There's just so many games. We're getting pickier, obviously. And I'm not trying to be cult of the new, right? I'm not trying to be like, hey, you need to play all these new games. Stop playing everything that came out before November 2018. No, that's fine. But there's still a lot of cool things to talk about.
Sure.
And that even includes same old point salad-y Stefan Feld, right?
Oh, is that my intro? Thank you.
Hey,
I'm
tossing you a segue. Actually, listen, as we get into this. So I got 2 games from Stefan Feld from Essen.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them was, I forget
Carpe Diem?
It's Carpe Diem, which looks like it was printed in 1990. It really does.
Okay.
It looks like the old Aaliyah line. Well, it's in the Aaliyah line. The pieces look boring and blah, like, this typical Stefan Feld. Well, then I saw Forum Trajanum by the same designer, and it looks a whole lot nicer.
Okay. Well, it does. Forum Trajanum is...
That was the segue.
That was
the segue.
Forum Trajanum is the new one from Stronghold Games and Stefan Feld, and it is, much like many of Feld's designs, one of those games that offers a whole lot of ways to earn points. Every player has their own little, they call it the Colonia board, which is this big old grid that you fill with a bunch of tokens that are action tokens. And each turn you're going to draw two of these things. There's cards that tell you where you can draw them from, which column and row. You draw two of them, select one to keep and one to pass to a neighbor, and then you get the one from your other neighbor. You will then get to activate one of those two actions, which sometimes earns you resources and sometimes lets you do other stuff. And then you get to build things. And as you're removing these action tokens from your Colonia board, you're making space that you can fill with buildings that are one of four colors. Also, there's some special buildings that are gray buildings. And those give you bonuses, which then let you do other things. The colored buildings let you build onto a central board and sort of do a little, it's kind of area control, making a little fort basis on this central board. Then there are these gray buildings that let you move up tracks that earn you bonuses. And all of these things are going to earn you points over 3 scorings. It plays over 12 rounds total. There's 3 scorings throughout the whole course of the game. And you'll get points for putting buildings on your own Colonia board. You'll get points for putting little envoys on the center. And you'll get points for increasing your scoring opportunity. There's like a little slider bar up at the top that says how much you earn points for doing certain things. You can actually move that thing along and make it worth more to do certain things. I'm being purposefully vague so I don't get lost in the weeds here. There's a whole bunch of things to do and ways to earn points. And we took sort of different paths in my first game of this, and the scores were relatively close. There was one player who was collecting resources like crazy in order to get bonuses. There's Trajan bonuses at the end of each scoring round that you can score multiple times, earn lots of points with it. He was doing really well collecting all that stuff. I didn't have resources nearly as often because I was spending them to build things in the center and building a huge cluster of my envoys, which was earning me points and scoring extra bonuses that way. We ended up within 2 or 3 points of each other by the end. I like this one. I think it has plenty of things to explore with all the different paths. And I could have, focused better in my strategy and been a little closer in what I was trying to do, more focused. There is a good amount of uncertainty in this game because you don't know what you're drawing from round to round. You don't know what columns or rows you'll be able to draw from to get those action tokens. So it's a little more tactical than strategic. You can have a major game plan, but you don't know if you're going to be able to, capitalize on that plan based on the actions that you get from round to round. Still, I really liked it. I think this is well worth exploring, and it's another Feld hit. Forum Trajanum.
It does sound good, and the game has something I really like in it. This may sound silly. I really like when you take a close look at a board and see little people walking around. It's like this Where's Waldo type thing. Yeah, I don't know. I like that. That just makes me happy about a game. That makes me happy in books, too. There needs to be a new Where's Waldo. That's all I'm saying. I just saw an ad on Facebook where you can stick your own kid in one of these books and have them find themselves.
Yes, I was actually just going to say that.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking about getting that for my kid for Christmas. I don't know. Seems interesting.
Sounds good.
I do want to try out Forum Trajanum. Let's talk about another game that's all about points, and that's Azul, this is the second Azul. The first Azul had something to do with tiling. This one has to do with stained glass, the stained glass of Sintra. This is kind of a hard one to explain if you haven't played Azul, but there is a lot of similarities between the two games. In this game, there are several areas on the board that are going to have different colors of stained glass tokens in them. There are 5 different colors. on your turn, you'll pick one of those areas, and you'll take all pieces of one color. So let's say there's 2 blues, a pink, and a yellow. I can take the 2 blues, I can take 1 pink, or I can take 1 yellow. The colors you take, the colors you don't take, get pushed into the middle. And if you ever take stuff from the middle, you have to take all of one color. You have to take all of a color whether you want to or not. When you take these colors, you then must drop them in a column. You have these stained glass windows that you're building that are going to need these different colors. So maybe one of my columns needs 3 yellows or 4 yellows and 2 oranges. So if I take 2 yellows, I can put the 2 yellows in that column. If I take 5 yellows, that's going to be, I'll have to put 4 in that column and then drop 1 into broken glass, which will lose me points at the end of the game. So in this game, you can force your opponent to lose points if you can force them to take colors. However, you have this guy at the top of the board who's moving along, and you can put glass in his column or a column that's to his right, which he'll move to automatically. So you can also spend a turn moving him all the way back to the left, kind of resetting him. And your whole goal is to fill up a whole column full of stained glass, and then one of those pieces will drop down to the bottom to your window. And that's how you score points at the end of the game. And there's 2 different ways depending on which game you're playing. There's 2 different scoring methods at the end of the game. It's very simple, although it's a little more complex and gamified than the first Azul. I like it better than the first Azul because I like stained glass better. Although, even though I like stained glass theme better, I think the components for the first Azul were better. But this one is still very interesting. You got to try to figure out the right timing to drop your pieces down, to move your guy back to the left, trying to force your opponent to take colors or take colors so that they can't get them. Each round of the game, there's 6 rounds of the game, a different color will give you bonus points if you score a window with that color, so you can try to time that too. Overall, the whole thing has a very pretty look to it. I mean, Plan B knows how to make a game look great.
Yeah.
And this one still looks really good. I don't think this will be as widespread as the first one, but I like it a little bit better for me. You've not played this yet, right, Eric?
Not the new one, no. I guess my question is, because Azul is widely regarded as such a great entry point into the hobby, is that still the case here? Could you just jump right into stained glass?
Well, I think you could. Like, I played this one with my wife in particular, who never played the original Azul. And she liked it and enjoyed it, and I don't know, I don't know. I think probably the first one would be slightly easier to teach people, but I also don't think it's that big of a difference. But I do think Azul is cornering the market on these square tile games, or is it? I'm really trying to toss these segues like with a steamroller today.
Yes, although that wasn't what I was going to talk about next.
Yeah, but I thought it was a good segue anyway.
It is. We'll get to that in a second. So one of the things I really love doing at Essen is picking up the latest Haba release. And just seeing, because there's a lot of stuff that comes out in Germany that we don't see right away here in the U.S. from Haba, if at all. And one of the new releases from Haba is called Die Legende der Irrlichter, which translates to like mysterious lights, Irrlichter. The actual English title is Luxantis, which is just as difficult to remember. Luxantis is the name of the castle you are defending. This is a cooperative game that uses LEDs in the board to signify safe spaces and dangerous spaces. You sort of turn the thing on, you set it up, scramble things. It's not totally random. There are, I think, patterns on this board. So you'll have sort of clusters of red dots. Those are the dangerous spaces. These dots are different spaces through a forest. There's pre-printed walls and hedges that you can't cross over. There are also spaces that have magical items on them. And these items are the things you want to step on so that you can prevent the bad guys. There's 8 bad guys. You shuffle them up and deal 8 out that are moving toward the castle. And one may have, a blue potion and a sword on it. And if you tag the blue potion, you put a little marker on the blue potion, on that and any other creatures that have the blue potion. And then if you find the sword, then you've removed that creature from the threat track, and you're one step closer to winning the game. After you move, you only get to move 5 spaces on your turn. You then roll a die. And if it's a red die, you hit the red button on the board, and it lights up all the red spaces that you saw earlier. They lit up and then they turn off. You have to remember what's dangerous and what isn't. It lights up the red. If you're stuck on the red, you go back to start. If not, you're good. Then if you roll a blue on the die, you hit the blue button, and all of the safe spaces light up. And if you are on a safe space, you get to move 1 extra space. So bonus, yay. If, however, you roll a black, that scrambles the lights again. So you hit the black button, and now new lights glow red, and you might be stuck on a red space, which will send you back to start. So it's a memory game, but it's cooperative, and you sort of split up the task. I'm going to head for the sword. I'm going to head for this. And see if you can manage to tag all those things. Oh, yes, one of the other die results is that the bad guys move forward. So one column of bad guys will move 1 step closer to the castle. If anybody reaches the castle, you lose. It's pretty simple. The version as packaged is, I think, a little too simple because the monsters can have from 1 to 4 symbols on them. And 1 or 2 symbols is a little too easy to get rid of, especially because it's a die roll that moves things forward. If you never roll that monsters move forward result, the game will never end. You will never lose. So I think you need to, after you've played through it once you understand the game, take those 1s and 2s out of the deck, play with just 3s and 4s, making it tougher and a little more hazardous. I do like the sense of heading off into the forest and not knowing if you're totally safe. Maybe avoiding where you know red dots are, but you might not remember that one more dot, or things get scrambled and you might have to head back home. I liked it. I don't know if it's going to be like a bellwether game in the house. Like it may not stick around forever. But as a gimmick, it's more cool, than... It looks really cool, and especially if you turn the lights down a little bit so that the lights glow really well. Although if you turn the lights down too far, you can't see the board. So you have to find a happy medium. It's more than just a gimmick, but I do think it's going to get old once we've beaten it a few times on the harder difficulty. Still, the kids enjoyed it, so I guess that's what you're looking for in a Haba game. Die Legende der Irrlichter, or Luxantis from Haba.
I'm very interested in trying this one out. Alrighty, well, I have a 2-player game I'm going to talk about now from Jelly Bean Games, which is a great name for a company, by the way. But you probably shouldn't eat the jelly beans in a jar that people are counting for contests.
No.
No. So anyhow, Lady and Tiger is a 2-player game based on the classic story, The Lady and the Tiger. If you've never heard it, essentially a guy was arrested in a kingdom for some reason or other, and they were determining whether he was guilty. I actually forget what his reasoning was. I think maybe it was because he was in love with the princess. I'm not sure. Anyway, he was in love with the princess, and she figured out who was behind these doors. See, to determine if someone was guilty or not, they would open one of 2 doors. If they opened one door, a tiger jumped out, ate him. If they opened the other door, a beautiful lady would come out, they get married, and hooray, they're innocent.
Okay.
So this lady figured out which was behind which door, and the story basically went into the depths of, well, would she like to see the person she loved get ripped apart by a tiger and killed, or would she like to see him in the arms of another woman?
Ooh.
And she's like a barbarian princess. So, and the story ends open-ended. She tells him which door to pick secretly, and he just does it without blinking. And then they end the story saying, which did he pick? I assume she pointed to the lady. I don't think she'd be so barbaric as to have him murdered.
One would hope.
I don't know. Anyhow, that's what this game is. But this game is actually 5 different games in it. There's a solitaire, there's some movement, but there's a couple light deduction games. And one of them in particular I really enjoyed, where you get a card. You are either a red lady, a red tiger, a blue lady, or a blue tiger. And by the way, the artwork in this game is stunning. It's beautiful. And then your opponent gets the other one, and slowly you are drawing cards in front of you. And if you get 4 cards that match tiger, lady, blue, or red, that match your card, you can get points for those. However, your opponent can guess who you are at any point. So if they see you get 3 red cards, they're like, definitely they're red. But you might be doing that just to mess with their mind. That's basically the whole game. But I like it. It's a lot of fun, and I recommend this game. If you want, there's 5 games. Realize in any game where you have 5 games that they're not all going to be fantastic. But a couple good games in a package like that make me happy. So that's The Lady and the Tiger from Jelly Bean Games.
So the game that Tom was alluding to just a moment ago is Majolica.
Oh, the segue is spoiled. Don't even try now.
I just really liked to do it in this order. I wanted to maintain it. So anyway, Majolica is spelled Majolica. It's a Spanish term for an island. This is also a tile drafting game. In fact, it sort of looks like an Azul clone at first glance, but I think I like it better. It's from Taiwan Board Game Design Group, more specifically Blue Magpie Games. The designer is Yu Wang. In Majolica, you have like a 4x4 grid in the center with 4 tiles each of 4 colors. And the way you get tiles is that you will take a line of them that's on the outside of that 4x4 grid and either take all of those tiles, or you can also take only one of those tiles and do some special actions. When you take these tiles, they're going to go in one of 4 factories that you have in front of you. And when these factories fill, and they have to fill in a certain way, like one of them needs 2 sets of 3 in order to activate. Another needs 3 pairs in order to activate. One is 2 pairs, and then one is all 4 of the same color. And when you have satisfied this condition, using the tiles, and any that you don't use you can toss away or you can replace them. It's very easy to replace them. But once you've drafted them so that they match that condition, you then activate that factory, move some of those tiles to a scoring card that you've also acquired that has certain colors in certain patterns that you want to fulfill, and then the rest of those tiles move to the next factory, which could trigger that factory, moving those tiles up to a scoring card, and then move those to the next factory. It's possible to trigger all of your factories in one go if you've planned it out properly. And that's really fun to manage to make that happen. If you get all the way to the end with the final factory, you can end up with a wild tile that you can then put back into your factory cycle. You earn points for each of these completed cards. You draft more of them by taking only 1 tile instead of 3 or 4 from the board. If there are only a certain number of tiles available in the center, they reset, which then moves the turn order. So there's ways that you can get double turns if you time it properly, or you can skip someone who was just about to go, but then you send the first player marker past them, which is really fun to do to Jason. I really like this. It's a thinky game because you have to puzzle through how you're going to trigger all these things. But I like the drafting. I like the pieces. They're not quite as lovely as the Azul, like thick tiles, but they're they're a shiny cardboard, which is still pretty cool. They have a clinkiness to them. Really solid. They were sold out at Essen. I ordered 3 copies so that I can keep one and either give the other 2 as gifts or sell them at a convention. I'm not sure which yet. Majolica. Big thumbs up. I think it's actually my pick of the show from Spiel this year.
Woo! That is pretty high. I've not played this one yet. Z says it's good, but not as good as you and Jason say it is.
Well, yeah, Jason was rather enamored.
Well, I'm going to have to try this one out, because it looks kind of cool. Alrighty, anything else before we move on to the next section?
I just wanted to mention very quickly the Legend of Billy Ker, which... Let's see, Mandy talked about very briefly. It was actually the same game that I was in that we talked about. I know it was number 1 on my list, so I wanted to briefly say that, yes, I had a similar reaction to Mandy, that it's more abstract than I thought it would be, and I want to delve deeper to see where the story is, because I'm not quite seeing it yet. But that's still first impressions, first scenario, and I think I need to play it some more. So it's going to be a little bit of a wait to get my reaction on that one for good. Still happy, still excited, but not quite as enthusiastic as I was before I had a chance to play the first scenario, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. We'll have to wait and see, right?
Yeah. There's more to explore there for sure.
So, before we jump into our next segment here from Geoff, just a quick explanation. Geoff recorded this a little bit over a week ago from us recording this, so that by the time you hear this, this is almost 2 weeks old news. But if you lived in America, you know that there was a gigantic lottery. I mean, it
was
went up
big.
to $1.5 billion. That was a lot of money. Someone did win it. So Geoff's here to talk about winning money.
3, 2, 1, go.
It's time for Game Tech with Geoff Engelstein, where we find out how games really work.
As I am recording this, the Mega Millions lottery jackpot stands at $1.5 billion. That's billion with a B. And earlier today at work, someone stopped by my office and asked if I wanted to put some money into the office lottery pool. Now, I have a reputation to uphold. My brand is, quote, mathematical realism, so I declined. But I have to admit, I did think about it. I mean, how bad will I feel if the office pool wins? Now, I often talk about loss aversion and the role it plays not just in game design, but in our lives. And one of the things that loss aversion says is the idea that we will take a sure thing over the chance for a bigger payout, even if the bigger payout makes more sense mathematically. For example, let's say I offer you these two options. I will give you $3,000 guaranteed, or I will give you the chance to roll a die, and on a 1 to 5 you get $4,000, and on a 6 you get nothing. Now, mathematically, you should roll the die. Your average winnings are above $3,000, but 80% of people choose the sure thing. This ties in with regret and a whole bunch of other interesting emotions. Now, the lottery is a similar proposition. For example, if I say, I will give you $1 guaranteed or a 1 in a billion chance to win $500 million, mathematically, you should take the dollar. But studies show that most people would take the chance for the $500 million. Now, this inversion of loss aversion is what lotteries are designed to take advantage of. Losing $1 or $2 won't change your life. Getting $500 million will. Now, the odds of Mega Millions are 1 in 302 million. That is an incredibly small chance, and one that the local news stations are always trying to come up with fun comparisons for, but one that our brains are not equipped to deal with, and lottery designers take advantage of that. Big jackpots attract attention and can dramatically increase ticket sales, as we're seeing this week. To increase the jackpot size, Mega Millions did two things about a year ago. First, they doubled the ticket price from 1 to 2. Second, they added more numbers to choose from, boosting the odds from 1 in 200 million to about 1 in 300 million. Now, that makes it much more likely that no one will win, and the jackpot will carry over to the next week. Now, once numbers get really big, like 200 million versus 300 million, we lose the ability to really understand what that means. We just lump them together into the same mental category. Really, really unlikely. Yet, we see that people win, so we think, why not me? Now, jackpot size drives lottery ticket sales, so lotteries have a perverse incentive to actually make them harder and harder to win. The harder they are to win, the more the jackpots grow, and the more the jackpots grow, the more people that normally don't play the lottery jump in. Studies show that reducing the chances of winning increases the number of people that play, which seems weird, but makes sense when you look at the psychology. So over time, the odds for winning lotteries have gotten worse and worse and worse as the people that run them realize that the way they make the most money is by making them more and more impossible to win. So as jackpots get gigantic, more people play. If multiple people win, the jackpot is shared. So what impact does this have on the size of the prize people actually get? A recent study on lotteries showed that as jackpots grow, the average award increases until they get really big. Then they start to decline again as non-regulars jump in. The magic number right now is $400 million. The average payout for a $400 million jackpot is the highest of all. Above that, there are way more duplicate winners. This number is, of course, subject to what people are used to and a variety of cultural factors, but I thought it was a neat factoid. One more lottery study for you. Earlier in 2008, a team did a study of thousands of lottery winners in Sweden to see if they were happier. And the result? Their happiness increased right after they won, but then dropped back to pre-winning levels. But they were more satisfied with their lives, and the increase in satisfaction lasted for decades. The difference between happiness and satisfaction is subtle. Now, to determine it, the researchers asked each person 2 questions and asked them to answer on a 1 to 10 scale. First, all things considered, how happy would you say you are? And, taking all things together in your life, how satisfied would you say that you are with your life these days? The second has people take a bit of a step back from the day-to-day and think about their lives overall. So maybe money can't buy happiness, but it can buy satisfaction. This is Jeff Engelstein with Game Tech.
Okay, Eric, did you buy a ticket?
On this most recent one, no, but I think the last time the Powerball reached some high level, yeah, I jumped in and spent like $10 on it. It is, I mean, it seems like it's worth it more when the numbers get up that high, even though the odds are worse when it gets up that high. And plus the odds of you, if you did win, having to split it would be higher too. I don't know. It just, it's a lot of money.
I know. I think it's mathematically dumb to do so, and yet I thought briefly about it, even on this last one. Then I shook my head and I was like, what? No, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
But I met a lot of people who never play the lottery who were like, yeah, I bought a couple tickets. So Jeff's right. So this is interesting. Maybe a game can be made around this.
Yeah, I liked the hearing where the sweet spot is, on, like that 440 million. That's interesting.
Alrighty. Well, hey, folks, we're going to jump into questions in just a second. But before we do, we need questions. Send us questions. Email us at questions@dicetower.com and put in the subject header, well, whatever the name of your question is. We'll try to answer them on the show, but we got some. Let's get into them.
Tom.
Tom. Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Have you ever accidentally eaten one of your game pieces?
Do you ever make a fort out of game boxes?
How big can a miniature be before it's not really a miniature? And now, the Dice Tower will authoritatively, definitely, possibly, maybe, answer your questions.
Tom, which way to the game library?
So Stian has been delving into the world of virtual reality. I'm a passionate board gamer residing in Norway. When I first tried a dev kit Oculus VR headset many years ago, my first thought was, finally, I can't wait to play tabletop games with my friends in VR. Not, OMG, I can finally pilot the Millennium Falcon, although that was a close second. I love board gaming more than any other activity, but most nights I am stuck at home with the kids while the madam works late shifts. So tabletop gaming in VR is the holy grail for me. I have tried flat-screen digital versions of games, but it's just not the same. I want to pick up the pieces, look at my friends cross their hands and think, and get that tactile feeling that a screen just doesn't offer. I own PlayStation VR and came across this amazing free social VR game called Rec Room. Inside Rec Room, you basically have a 3D maker pen with access to simple logic chips, and thus the ability to create your own games. For those who have a powerful PC gaming rig, Tabletop Simulator is the obvious choice, as well as standalone games such as Catan Vr, but sadly I can't justify spending that much, so I am stuck with recreating games inside Rec Room. This is quite a challenge, as there are obvious limitations. Cards are practically impossible to manage. Writing text is mostly done by drawing, so any game with a lot of cards is very hard to pull off. So far, I have tried making The Resistance, Ubongo 3D, and seen attempts at Captain Sonar. Both games that require relatively few pieces and/or where you don't really need cards, but can get away with creating similar mechanics using the in-game tools. Which brings me to the meat of the question. Do you guys have any good ideas for games that have few or no cards, do not require reading much text, few moving pieces, easy to mess up the game board by picking up the wrong parts, and are fun to play? Would love to hear what you guys think about tabletop gaming in VR.
Oh, I can answer that part. No.
Oh, no.
I'm not interested in it at all. Like, not even a little. I know that seems weird, right? And I think VR is really cool. I like the idea of VR, to put the glasses on. And I don't mind a game that uses a little bit of VR in it. You know, like Chronicles Crime has it slightly. And some other games have used VR in them. And that's fine, I guess. But for me to use VR to play a virtual game against, let's say, Eric, I don't know. I'd rather just play with someone in my area. It's not good enough for me to actually be there with them. You tested this out at PAX last year, didn't you?
I did. I tried out Catan VR and liked the experience. I think it's it was certainly immersive, and the idea of if I really wanted to play against like my college buddies across the country, yeah, this would be a good close way to do it. At least more immersive than, say, playing over Skype with, you know, proxies for the different boards or something. But yeah, I don't know if I have a good. I'd wonder if you could play a dexterity game this way, something like Jenga, and just something that plays off of the imprecision of the interface, and having fun trying to move blocks around using your VR gloves and stuff. That might be fun.
Yeah, again, I'm not opposed to people doing it, okay? I'm not, like, looking down on anyone doing this. I just don't know that I want to do it. I think this is almost like just a personal thing. It's, like, not even a negative thing. It's just that I just would rather be there in person.
I would rather, I think, play the flat screen versions. Like, if I was going to play a long-distance game, I'd like to play something that was designed for that interface, where everything looks the way it's supposed to in the board game, is made to be played long distance. This sort of cobbled together, make your own version of games is, I don't know, it seems weird.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to get better as time goes by, for sure. Dave has a couple questions for us. He said he bought Jim Henson's Labyrinth. Okay. And he found some pictures of custom painted pieces. He doesn't trust his own skill set to paint them. But he also doesn't want to pay someone to paint minis and have them come back and look like garbage. If you don't paint your minis, how do you find someone to paint them for you? Have you ever mailed them to someone? And if so, can you protect yourself from never seeing your pieces again? That's his first question. I've done this. I've paid people or traded services with people for painting. And I would say 3 out of 4 times it has worked well. I've had a couple times where it didn't work well. One person I had to threaten to get my stuff back. I did get it back, but it was a mess, not paint it. You're just going to have to go like with anything, any buying on eBay. You just have to take your chances on it, I guess. There's service companies out there that do it. I think your better bet is to find someone in your game group who paints and work with them.
Yeah, because then you can just lean on them when you see them next. Do these, I've never sent away minis to get painted, but do these services offer any sort of guarantee or a turnaround time estimate or something like that?
Well, they usually tell you what it's, how long it's going to take and stuff, but they don't really. It's been a long time since I've got this done. Well, his second question here, he says when we do our top 10s, we reference games coming in at 11 or 12. Do we make these lists by our own judgment at that point, or do we use some type of grading rubric to help you best decide?
Grading rubric.
Eric, give us your secrets. Give us your secrets.
I don't have a grading rubric. It's all sort of relational. So when I make my top 10 lists, I will do a short list of any games I think could work with the category, and then I'll circle the ones that I know definitely are on the list. And then I'll either be above or below 10 at that point. So if I'm above 10, then I have to figure out which ones don't belong on the list or rank below the other 10. And then I definitely know, well, there's my 11 and 12 because they were on the short list and they got knocked off at the last minute. And then other times I'm only at 7 or 8 and have to come up with, maybe come up with 5 other games that could match on the list and then hem and haw over which of those 5 get to be on the list. And then I know what 11, 12, and 13 are. but it's all sort of a relational thing. It's not really there's no scoring system. It's just, this is definitely here, this is maybe on the line, and that's where the 11s and 12s come.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know what, when we make this list, there's always a possibility we've missed something anyway. But I go through it and I just grab games, and then I use those to make my top 10. And then I'll see one, I'm like, oh, that would have made my top 10. Oh, it's so close, so close. Well, then that's my obvious 11. I definitely don't use a rubric ever for anything. Dave also says he hopes we go to PAX Unplugged this year. We'll be there.
I will too.
And yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. We're going to do a couple things at PAX. We'll have a booth there, so stop by our booth and say hi to us. And we'll be doing a top 10 list there, which I have not even told Eric the topic yet.
That would be a good thing for you to do.
It was a good topic, too. Here's the deal. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I know we decided on a good topic. So it's going to be exciting. So come by our top 10 list. And I'm going to be teaching Role Player one night, Saturday night. And when I'm done teaching Role Player, we have the Learn to Play room. That's our room. So if you want to come by and play games with us, you can find us there.
Oh, neat.
All right, let's go to the next question.
The Gaming Mole asks, recently I started a discussion on the Dice Tower Guild about king making, mostly about what qualifies as such, and asking for people to weigh in on whether it was good etiquette or not. I was curious to know what your thoughts are on the topic. Do you think it's okay when players go after another player because that player is assumed to win too often? How about when one player has a rival with another and goes out of their way to attack that player, even at the detriment of their own strategy? Do you think playing poorly or randomly can be a form of king-making?
Okay, first of all, by the way, folks, you might say, hey, we might have heard this question before, but you know what? I don't think anyone should be expected to dig through 580 episodes to find these questions. So if you have a question that you're like, I think they've answered that before, I'm not sure, ask it. Maybe we'll answer it again. This is one that comes up often, but I think it's always good for us to talk about it. I hate king-making, but there's always caveats because sometimes you quote-unquote king-make, but it's the best move for you, so you should do it.
Right.
I'm not working for the other players. Okay, so what did he say here? Is it okay when players go after another player because that player is assumed to win too often? Is it okay, Eric?
I don't. I think anything that's outside the game is sort of starting to cross the line. If it's just because, I guess that one I'm a little okay with, because let's say you've got, just picking names out of a hat, you've got Jason and Tom, and one of them is probably going to win based on my actions. Would it feel better to see Jason not win or to see Tom not win? I don't know. I'm okay with that. I guess the rivalry, though, starts to...
Search in your heart. You know what's true.
The rivalry stuff, that starts to rankle a little bit, or because you won the last game, or you screwed me over in that last game, so now I'm going to take it out on you in this game. That sort of starts to cross the line.
Yeah, I won't argue that. Yeah, I have to say, if I have to choose between two players, I'm always choosing the one who wins more to go after. Because, not so much because I'm tired of them winning, just because I'm like, that seems fair. You win a lot. I'll go with the other guy.
Yeah.
That's not like a negative thing. It's just how that worked out. Okay, so next one. What if a player's a rival and goes their way to attack that player? That I disagree with. If you have that kind of problem, stop gaming. And do I think playing poorly or randomly can be a form of king-making? Yes. The guy's like, I think I'll just do this. I'm like, but if you do that, you set him up to get 100 points. It's just a game, right? Sure, you're out.
Yeah.
Of the gaming group.
Yeah, that's annoying.
All right. Next question's from Zach. Zach has a pretty long story here, but basically, he went to an organized play Warhammer Underworld Shadespire from a store. So he went to the store. It was a 2-day tournament. You pay $15 to go in, or you could buy the game or one of its factions, and that's a way to get in. And there was prizes like acrylic game tokens and a cool glass trophy. So he bought the game to jump in his tournament. Mm-hmm. He shows up for the tournament. It's him, 2 strangers, and the guy who owns the store. All right, fine. Okay. I don't think, by the way, if you run a store, you should be in a tournament, but whatever. He ended up in first place, and he said, as a result, on day 2, the other 2 contestants didn't even show up. So he played the store owner, and he won 2 out of 3 games. So he had won 7 out of 9 games. The store owner won 4 out of 9. I agree. He says, but the organized rules they created, we were supposed to play 8 matches total to determine a winner. By his rules, I had won, but instead of handing me the prizes, he said, why don't we give it another month and see if more people show up or if those other 2 people show up? So he kind of agreed. Over the next month, he helped the store guy advertise by making flyers, bragging to customers, telling people about it. And there was another tournament with single-day tournament, same buy-in rules. 1 person showed up, and he bought in by buying another faction. We were told to start playing and record our wins and losses. When more people show up, we'll change, and it'll be a final match. No one won up. He won 3 matches against the new guy, and he said, this game's not for me, and just left. So he went to the store owner and said, what does this mean? Did I win? And the store owner said, no, there has to be a final match among top players to get the trophy. I said, well, can I play you? He said, no, I don't enjoy the game anymore. I said, do I get anything? And he said, no. And he saw the organized play kit, and he learned the kit had support for up to 16 players, and multiple people could get the promos and acrylic bits. But because he didn't find enough people, he got nothing. So he wants to know what he should do here. Should he see if Games Workshop will do anything? But he doesn't want to hurt the struggling, friendly local game store.
Wow.
Well, I don't think it's a friendly local game store if that's happening there.
Yeah. Like what? This just seems odd. Like if the game didn't have enough support to have a full tournament, why is the game store owner hoarding the promos and stuff? Like, is there a plan to sell that stuff on eBay? That's weird. He should have. He won the tournament. I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, that there is a plan to sell that on eBay. Yeah.
Because that is what typically happens in these situations. And, you know, the publishers get really mad about this sort of thing because they'll see these things and they're promos meant to be given to store owners and people will, and again, we know that most store owners are not doing this.
Yeah.
But some are, and that's not cool.
No, I mean, I think I would. I would write to Games Workshop and let them know this experience. This is something that they would want to know is happening with an organized event for their game. It's possible that there were rules in place that said you needed a certain number of players to make it an official event. There is that possibility, but I don't know.
Well, sure, but then that should have been made clear, especially since this guy went and bought all this stuff.
Right.
For the chance to win. Granted, he didn't buy and get nothing, right? So you got to be cautious. You know, it's not like, oh, I got nothing. No, you got the game.
You got the game, yeah.
So there's that. But I could see that being slightly annoying.
Slightly, yeah. I think Zach has a point here.
Well, all right.
Ewan is just getting into the hobby in his mid-30s after being more of a video game fan most of his life. He's found our videos to be very enjoyable and informative, especially the top 10 and top 100 ones, as they've helped him with purchasing most of the collection so far. It has also been fun listening to others who spent time in Korea teaching English. I was in Kimpo for 1 year, he says. I was wondering a couple of things. First, was if there are any conventions down under that Dice Tower either has or would consider coming to, and if there is, would you add a play with option to your next Kickstarter? My wife and I are expecting our first child. You want to address that one first?
Well, real quick, no, not that we don't want to come. I would love to come down there, but we have not been invited, so we can't add a play option to something we're not going to. It would be super fun to go to, but yeah, we haven't been invited.
Yeah,
nothing negative. I don't even know of any other than maybe PAX.
Yeah, there's PAX Australia. I don't know. There must be other large conventions down there, right? My wife
Sure.
and I,
I
says
don't
you
know, though.
are expecting our first child in about a week or so and was wondering, at what age did you first introduce board games to your children? Obviously, it would differ from child to child, but is there a general rule of thumb that you used in relation to the suggested age on the box?
Nope. I go by the children. There's no other way around it, folks. My 4-year-old son is very different than 4-year-old Melody, who's very different than my other 4-year-olds. They're all different. So I always have to look into the game and say, is this something I think my kids can handle?
Yeah.
I honestly can't think of a better way. You just got to do that. Watch the review and just say, can my kid handle it?
Yep.
That's
And I guess the thing I always spout in these situations is don't be afraid to back off of the rules if the kid isn't handling it. You can still play with a lot of these components as toys, make up your own fun. It's okay if they're overwhelmed by the rule set. My kid did not want to listen to rules for a while, several years after what it said on the box. And so that's fine. If you want to play with the Monza cars and just, drive them around the track, you're still having quality time with the children. You don't have to play by all the rules. It'll come.
Eric didn't start playing by the rules till he was 30.
31. The other thing is after watching the live OK thoughts of Fireball Island and Monopoly, it made me feel nostalgic for a game I played back in the day. I believe I remember from one video I watched that you enjoy baseball games and was wondering if you have ever played either head-on baseball or football, both from around 1988. I can't remember much about the football one, but the baseball game felt similar to a video game to me. I know that you and the rest of the crew have and play a bunch of games, but I believe that it is still sitting on a shelf at my mom's house in Washington State, and as it is only gathering dust, and I probably won't get it sent to Australia, if you'd like a crack at it, I'd be willing to ship it to you. Only thing that you'd need is a cassette tape player. So, Tom, you want it?
Okay, so a couple things in regards to this. Folks, if you have an old game like this, please always check with us before you send one to us. The chance of us playing it is minimal, if only because we're sitting on dozens to hundreds of new games to play. And so playing an older game, it would have to take a very special game for us to do that. Secondly, I don't own any cassette players at all, ever, right now. I had one in a car, but now that one's gone too. So I don't even know how I would listen to a cassette tape.
I think I have one in the basement, but I don't know if it works.
Really? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just that I haven't gotten rid of the cassette player.
Oh, so it's kind of... It might not even work.
I have no idea. I have not tried it. I have a box of cassettes down there. But again, I don't know if those work either. Let's just say my basement's a mess.
Alrighty. Well, that seems like a good question. Let's get to our top 10 list.
Let's do it.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
Okay, man, I'm excited about this top 10 list because this is a top 10 list which was, a lot harder to put together than you might think. Because up until the last decade, the only really good team games were Pictionary and then just partnership games.
Yeah.
Password and things like that. Those are team games, usually 2-on-2 or what have you. Mm-hmm. I made some rules for my list. I did not hold Eric to these rules, which is good because he disregarded some of them. But I didn't pick a game where you could be switching teams throughout it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So a good example for that, let's make sure it's not on Eric's list. Yeah, okay. A good example for that would be Battlestar Galactica.
Or Good Cop, Bad Cop. You might start as
not a Cylon. Yeah, Good Cop, Bad Cop's another one, right? You don't know what team you're on the whole time. One-Eye Ultimate Werewolf. You could change in a blink of an eye. I also did one that plays best with a team, so I didn't pick any of these one-on-one games where, hey, you can play 3-on-3. With one exception, but this one is built into the rules itself. But Like, I'm talking about, like, X-Wing. I'm sure X-Wing probably plays great with teams, but I've always played it one-on-one.
Yeah, and it actually made your list the last time we did this.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, we've done this list before? I didn't even go back and look at that.
It's been almost 5 years. It was 2013 in November. So it's been a while.
Okay. Well, you know what? We had fewer options back then, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff from my list
And
back
then I
then
also
did not make it this
one
time.
One verse all because one verse all is basically it's not really team. It's one verse all. That's a different category.
Mm-hmm. And I tried to follow most of those as well. I think a few of these on my list can be one versus many, but they also can be team. Like I want to have, if you have a team, I'd like to have a partner at least two against the other team. And I think all of mine with enough players can be a team against a team. And I think that's what I was trying to stick to.
You're right. I'm looking at my lists from last time, and it was because there wasn't enough games to do it. So I picked stuff that I basically said one versus all was team versus team. Mm-hmm. So I had Descent on my list. What do you do?
Oh, yeah.
And X-Wing. Okay. And what was I had one last word? Oh, yeah, cooperative. I know you're a team in cooperative.
Yeah.
So to be clear, this list is team versus team, not just go team.
Right. Yes.
All right. With that being said, let's get started.
Number 10.
Let's get started with probably, the most tenuous of my selections. That's Flag Dash. This is a capture the flag team game. Each player has their own player with some sort of special power, and then there's a third player. It's played 2-on-2 usually, and there's a third character that also has some sort of special power that both players can control, and you're sort of programming and playing action cards to move your people around and try and get the flag and bring it back to your side of the board. It's goofy fun, moving meeples around and trying to capture the flag. Tactical for sure. It's a neat cooperative experience with your teammates. Flag Dash, number 10.
Yeah, this is a good one. I didn't actually even consider this one, but that's a good choice. I like this one. My number 10 is, well, a very popular one, and that's Codenames. And take your pick. They just released a week or so ago Codenames Harry Potter.
I need to get that one.
Yeah, I figured you would. I'm sure it's fine. I would not be surprised if we see Codenames something for the next 3 or 4 years, easily. Of something. Let's guess. What's the next one, Eric?
Oh boy. Star Trek.
They've already done Disney, Marvel, and Harry Potter.
Star Trek.
Star Trek?
Or Star Wars.
Hey, you already said Star Trek.
Star blank. Stargate.
Oh, no, they're not doing Stargate. I feel pretty confident on that one. All right, so you're saying Star Wars or Star Trek. That's a pretty good guess. It kind of shoots anything I was going to say.
Yeah, I'll stick with Star Trek just to be contrary.
I'll say Codenames TV. So they'll do one of like sitcoms and stuff.
Oh, like Get Smart.
Like Codenames Seinfeld, but that's too esoteric. All right. Anyway, Codenames is a great team versus team game. One person giving the clues to the rest of their team. You can play it 2 versus 2, but I found that these bigger teams kind of work pretty well also.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun, and I recommend any of the... Well, I guess there's 6 versions. I have not played the After Dark version, but there's Codenames Pictures, Disney, Marvel, and Harry Potter.
Yes.
And then After Dark.
This one was shortlisted for me for sure. Excellent choice.
Number 9.
Number 9 is one that sort of skirts the rule just a little bit. It's Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. And the new version from Osprey Games is really, really good for this. With enough players, there are 2 aliens at least. And I like the not knowing who your partner is, but sort of working together. And trying to suss out who is on your team. I tried to stay away from too many of these hidden role games, but I like that you are working together to try and trap the humans or to try to escape from the aliens and lead them in different places. It just has a nice flavor to it. Escape from Aliens in Outer Space, it's tense, and it's my number 9.
I didn't put Escape from Aliens in Outer Space on my list because because the aliens can kill each other by accident, and you're never sure. I don't know. I thought about it.
Well, that's not good teamwork.
I went back and forth on it. Yeah, because okay, that's what it is. Because you don't actually do any teamwork in the game. You're working separately, but on the same team.
Okay.
Tom's quickly scanning his list to make sure everything else meets that criteria I just made up on the spot.
Nice.
Yep, I'm cool. All right, my number 9 is higher on Eric's list. I hope he better have it higher on his list.
Number 8.
My number 8 is higher on Tom's list, so I will just slip him this order card and hope he understands what I want him to do.
You could tell me a little bit. My number 8 is higher on Eric's list. There's gonna be a lot of crossover here, folks. Just as a heads up. My number 8 is higher on Eric's list, or is it?
Number 7.
And my number 7 is higher on Tom's list. So I really hope he can hit that from over here.
Oh my goodness! Stop. Okay, wait. Okay. You're not gonna hear us say that for a while. Here we go. My number 7 was on my list last time, apparently, as I can see here now. And that is 1775 or 1812 or Vikings or any of the games in that series. Now, I mentioned I'm not a big fan of taking a 2-player game and then saying, let's play it in teams. I especially don't like it when the game is clearly a 2-player game and they're like, Eric will control all the units on the north side and Tom will control. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's a 2-player game. But in 1775, 1812 Vikings or these games from Academy games, they have 2 different armies per side, and the armies have different rules a little bit. They have different dice that they roll. You can move the other guy's pieces if there's one of them with you. They really do work well as team games. They're light war games. They're very fun. I think my favorite of the lot is either 1775 because I like the theming of the Revolutionary War and some of the area control involved in it, or the Vikings one because it comes with little plastic miniatures and also has some cool rules. So any of those Academy games makes my number 7.
Yeah, the only one of these I've played is 1775, but I really enjoyed it, and it does feel like an alliance that because you have your own personality for your faction, but you are working toward the same goal. And the way the turn order works is really neat, and who gets to activate when. Yeah, I think it really works as a team game.
Oh, that's cool.
Number 6.
My number 6 was Tom's number 9. That's Ticket to Ride Legendary Asia. This is the partnership version of Ticket to Ride where you share cards between the person sitting next to you, and there's communication rules that sort of stifle what you're allowed to say. And so what cards you put in your little rack is part of that communication, and trying to suss out what your partner is trying to get you to do is part of the game. And I'm putting this card here, but don't use it, even though it's one of our shared cards, is difficult to explain when you're just putting the card there. It's one I haven't played a lot of. I need to play this with my wife more. This should be like one of our go-to things when couples come over to play games. Ticket to Ride Asia, number 6.
Yeah, this is funny, though, because of the lack of communication, it's extremely interesting how much you get frustrated with the other person. Eric will say, oh, I'm going to build this route here. And I'm like, And he's like, what's the matter? And I say, nothing. But I'm lying. And later on, you will find that Ticket to Ride in the garbage can. No, it's really fun. I like it. And there's another game that just came out. I think, what is it? Is it Concordia?
Oh, yes. Concordia Venus has some sort of partnership rules. It came up on the list while I was researching, but I don't know how it works yet.
Yeah, so I'm kind of intrigued with that. All right, my number 6 is Resistance. Now, Resistance is very intriguing because one team, the bad guys, they know exactly who each other are. The other people aren't. They're trying to figure it out. That's the whole point of the game. But how the bad guys work together and accuse each other and do things is very fascinating to me, which is why I picked this over Werewolf. Also, Werewolf has a lot of things like Alpha Wolf and, people who don't know what team they're on and stuff. I like Werewolf, but Resistance is very clearly one team versus another team. And you're arguing very strongly, and the way the bad team works with or against each other can make the game. So that's my number 6, Resistance.
Yeah, my enthusiasm for Resistance has waned a good bit. It just hasn't hit the table, and I actually traded my copy away.
Oh, that's too bad.
Number 5.
My number 5 is one of those that also skirts the line just a little bit. It's Specter Ops, which ordinarily is a one versus many game, but one of the modes with enough players is that you can have a traitor as one of the hunters. And then you've got a team, one of which you know one player and who they are, but you don't know who your teammate is, helping you escape. And that dynamic, I think, is fascinating in Specter Ops. This hide and seek, but one of the seekers is trying to help somebody escape. And when they make that move, when they decide to start helping the seeker, the runaway player, is really, really cool. Number 5, Specter Ops with the traitor.
Huh. I was going to give you garbage on that one, but you avoided it. Clever.
Yes.
All right, my number 5 is Eric's number 7, and that's Flick 'em Up. Now, I like flicking games in general, and there's a lot of them in existence, but this one is true teamwork. Cowboys versus Outlaws, and it is so entertaining. As you work with each other, got cowboys all over the place and outlaws flicking discs, trying to shoot each other in shootouts and draws, and you're cheering for your teammates or yelling at them. It's just a really great time, very cowboy western themed, really great pieces too. Highly recommended for me. Flick 'em up.
Yeah, I like how you can, as a team, sort of spread out and try and take on objectives, maybe gang up on one or two players, or spread out and do like a zone defense to accomplish whatever objective you're doing, or play to the strengths or weaknesses of the different players on the team. Lots of ways to play this game. And because I think it's up to 10 players if every player has a single meeple? It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think
it depends on how many you have in the scenario, I guess. Anyway, great selection.
Sorry. Usually you're covering this stuff.
Number 4.
My number 4, it made my list last time as well. It's the curling table game. It works well as a team game because curling is a team game. And you can play, 2-on-2. You can play 4-on-4 and play to the strengths and the experience level of the different players. Have one player calling the shots, actually skipping to decide where the shots are supposed to go. It just really works as a team experience, much like lots of other sports simulations would do, but in a tabletop version of curling, this works very, very well. The curling table game, my number 4.
Good. Okay. I've never played this, and the chances are it may stay that way. My number 4 is Time's Up. Now, I've really come around on Time's Up. I've always thought Time's Up had great teams. 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2. And then someone was like, hey, you should play just a whole team against another whole team. I don't want to do that. It doesn't sound as much fun. And I finally did it, and you know what? I do like it better that way. This whole big team against another big team, different people are going up. If you're embarrassed about it or have a hard time, it's only 30 seconds, so it's really fast turnover times. This just works really well. You can watch some of our live playthroughs to see some of it. I just have a great time with this one. That's Time's Up. Any of the versions, Time's Up.
Number 3.
My number 3 is Space Cadets Dice Duel. This is the version of Space Cadets where you've got two teams and you're rolling dice as quickly as you can to steer your spaceships around and divert power and get targeting on your different on your systems and lock on to the opponent before the opponent can do the same to you. It's even better when you add the Die Fighter expansion and have one little ship with one pilot zipping around and taking pot shots at the enemy. It was my number 1 when we did this 5 years ago. It's slipped a little. You'll see why in a bit. But I still think it's a blast and a neat cooperative team-building experience as you all work together. I need more power on this particular system, or I need you to lock on. I need thrust now. And to see a captain really try and wrangle all of their teammates to do what they need to do is pretty cool. Space Cadets Dice Duel, number 3.
Yes, this is also, I think, last time this was on my list.
I think so.
No, was this? Yes, it was. Number 4, it has been knocked off by another game, which I'll talk about in a bit. But it is super fun. It was my 11, thanks to my scoring rubric.
Yes, rubric.
My number 3 was Eric's number 8, and this is Memoir 44 Overlord. Now, I mentioned I'm not a big fan of trying to take a single-player game and shoehorning in extra players. But Memoir 44 built that in since the very beginning, and it's stunningly amazing. Memoir 44 is a great 2-player World War II little combat game. But 4 versus 4 is an amazing experience. 3 people playing against each other, 1 person, the Overlord, for each side. I've played this at so many different conventions. It's such an entertaining way to play Memoir. I don't know. I just love it.
Yeah, I love the communication rules here as well, because the Overlord, the general, is handing out order cards to their 3 players, but they can only talk to one of the 3. The other 2 just get their card and that's it. And they may not know exactly what they want the general to do. Whereas he can have a conversation with one of the players and actually say, I want you to move these pieces here and corner these folks. The other 2 generals are on their own, which is pretty cool and provides for some miscommunication and some tension as the individual commanders do the opposite thing of what the general's hoping for. Really cool. Memoir 44 Overlord.
Yeah, I don't run into that as much, I think, because, but it does keep the fog of war down a little bit so that you can't just have exactly what you want to happen. And it keeps it from one player kind of alpha gamering the whole thing.
Number 2.
My number 2 was Tom's number 8. That is Decrypto, Yellow's hidden word game where you're trying to give clues to your team that make sense to your team but don't give too much information to the other team. I actually considered several games for this slot. Crosstalk is another favorite of my family's, where you're doing similar things, trying to give clues to your team that doesn't give too much information to your opponents. Decrypto edges it out. I think it's a little more involved. You are involved throughout, a little more dynamic. So it wins, but I think Crosstalk is excellent. Codenames also was a contender for this slot. But Decrypto is so cool in that you have to play to your team's strengths while trying to dance around what you think your opponents are doing and their logic and avoid that logic, whatever trail they happen to be on. It's difficult to do, but a blast. Decrypto, number 2.
Yeah, I agree with everything Eric said there. This game just does a really good job at making you work with your teammate, but not too closely. It's a great party game. My number 2 is Wits and Wagers, because it's so much better as a team game. I'll never play it not as a team game. Picking each person to not be by themselves, but to be in a group, a team together, and then you turn into a game show. But it doesn't even have to be it can be it's a game show essentially, but can be in your living room. Having groups of people work together just makes it more fun. That discussion comes out. It's so much fun. Wits and Wagers.
As much as I love doing the giant games of Wits and Wagers, I think it works better with teams of maybe 4 and not teams of like 10, which we've had to do in some of our larger games. Just so there is some discussion and everybody can be involved. I think if you have like 10 people on a team, that's just too much chaos as you try and come up with an answer. Still, I think I like it as a smaller group game and not the giant.
And finally, number 1.
And we move on to number 1. Tom and I have both alluded to this game just a little bit, and we have synced up for our number 1, which means we've locked onto each other, I guess. That's Captain Sonar.
Wow. This was, when I made this list, I wrote Captain Sonar, and then I started looking for other games.
Yeah. I mean, this is the king.
I didn't even hesitate.
This one has knocked off Space Cadet's Dice Duel a little bit, and it is such a synergy as your teammates work together, and there's that tension. You have to play real time. Maybe play turn by turn just to learn it, but real time is the way to play this game. and moving around and trying to suss out where the other team is. And then when that happens, when you figured out where they are, maneuvering into position and firing, it's amazing. And when you do it successfully, you feel so good. High fives and everything. It is such a great synergy of your teammates. It's a blast. Captain Sonar is a fantastic team game.
It really does come across with that, the agony of defeat, the thrill of victory. I don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I sit down to play a game, I'm like, if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. No, I better win, Captain Sonar. And I mean, I'm not upset when I lose, but it's so good. I love that. I love that game. Alrighty. Well, those are our top 10 team games. Let's see what the people say. All right, so number 10, Resistance Avalon.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, Space Cadets Dice Duel. Number 8, Decrypto. Again, there's not a ton of these games, so we'll see a lot of overlap. Number 7, Teach You.
Yeah, okay.
That's a partnership game that the people play and really enjoy. It's super fun to play with your enemies. Number 6 is Bridge.
Wow.
I was very surprised that this one made the list. Not because I don't think Bridge is popular. I just wasn't under the impression it was popular with the folks who watch our channel.
Like, okay.
Okay. Where are we at? Number 5 is Bang the Dice Game.
No, it says ba-bang. Ba-bang.
I don't mention when you make spelling mistakes.
No, now it says Bang the Dice Game. He edited it.
What do you think? No one can see what I'm doing.
I know, that's why I have to
except
explain.
you. Oh, I'm glad. Number 4 was Battlestar Galactica. Number 3, The Resistance. Number 2, Captain Sonar. And number 1, by a mile, actually, was Codenames.
Okay.
So why Codenames did not make Eric's list and made mine at 10, very obviously it is the people's choice, which is fine. It's a great game, and I'm not really surprised. But for me, it's Captain Sonar. It's Captain Sonar.
Yeah.
Captain Sonar.
Well, yes, I agree with you.
Did I ever tell you that? Have I ever talked about Captain Sonar? It's a great
I believe you've mentioned it.
Well, folks, always, of course, you can go to our Facebook group or to our forums and talk about this. You go in there and say, hey, why isn't there more good team games? And I would say, yeah, you're right. Why isn't there more good team games? And hopefully companies will make more, because this is a genre I like. It's fun to, join up with the team and go against someone else.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that's pretty much it for today, folks. Thanks for all don't forget, we want questions. Send them to questions@dicetower.com. We love to hear from you. I guess our next show goes up right before we go to PAX. But if for some reason you're already on your way to PAX and missed that, come say hi to us there.
Okay.
And don't forget, DicetowerCon.com.
Indeed.
Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 580, was recorded on November 8th, 2018. Mandy and Suzanne join you next week, and in 2 weeks, Tom and I will run through our top 10 games that have been replaced, but we kept them anyway. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. If a catastrophic event has become more than you can handle, find out how we can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Our frustration with a certain English songstress who refuses to take her seat provided by Citadel! Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network, including Board Games with Panda, The Broken Meeple, Start Space, The Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast, Tabletop Game Talk, Board Game Blitz, and Dice Tower Tonight. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Okay, at this point, folks, Eric is getting ready to press the button to end it. He is sitting there looking at the outro script. He's also wondering maybe he should go to bed right now or should he stay up later and watch a show. See, I can narrate stuff too.
Play by play.